All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Mindset Monday. We're stepping into a new week, as well as focusing in on closing out the month of April and leaning heavily this week, obviously, into May. And depending on where you are right now, much like last week when we were having this exact same discussion, there are a lot of folks that are inside of our community that are coming off a lot of momentum last week. Last week was great. We saw a lot of really great, not just next steps and foundational movement for some new members, as well as some folks that know this, but really we saw a lot of the tools, the training, and really some of the strategic efforts starting to click, from networking to utilizing your overall networking and marketing materials together as one and building on your own story. Amazing stuff. Obviously, we'll save announcements for another call, but it's really great to see that. But that's not everyone, right? Some folks are coming off of a week of rejection. And I had multiple conversations last week with individuals, some that were in the program and some that are out. And, that's not easy. I have other folks who are just kind of getting started. I had a couple, there's big companies laying folks off, and they're just finally coming off their grief period, and they're starting to lean into this new space and starting to see where they have strengths and where they have weaknesses. And then I have some folks who completely feel like they're starting over. They might have landed jobs within the last 3 to 7 months, and now they're starting to feel like, man, I kind of jumped into this. I had stress from financial decisions, and I just chose to go into work. My point here of all that is that all of it is normal. No matter where you sit in this spectrum, whether you are pumped up and fired up for this new week, or you're feeling the weight and the pressure of all this, that's okay. But what I really want to do is challenge the collective group that I see as an underlying piece that no matter if you're having success or you're struggling right now, that is quietly holding most job seekers back. And that real focus is that most job seekers believe this one sentence: I'm competing against hundreds, thousands, or even millions of applicants. And on the surface, that really does feel true or even real, but it's not. And the reason why is because nobody's really competing with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of other candidates. They're just competing with consistency. And because when really someone leans into understanding this job market mathematically, you'll start to understand that there are a tremendous amount of people. Most people apply and then they disappear. People will try networking and they stop. A good amount of people will follow up within a networking or an interview one time, and then they stop because they feel like they're being annoying or overbearing, or they're being, too forceful. Or people even get rejected, and then they change nothing about their approach and don't analyze their strategy. So no, you're not competing with thousands or millions of job seekers. You're truly competing with the small percentage of job seekers who are really worried and focused on keeping going with consistency. So let's ground this, because you guys know those are great words and they can make you feel a million different ways. But the truth is, you got to have structural foundation. That's what we believe in the program to be. You need data, right? So let's ground it out, right? So let's think about this. So referrals, we all agree, mathematically, can make up a small percentage of overall applicants, right? It's actually 7% of all referrals that are applied in as applicants are the ones who get jobs. Okay. Now, we know that is crazy to think about 7%, right? But we also then know right off that 7% of them, 85% of the people getting jobs are the referrals. So that tells you, just think the sheer raw volume of applicants that are just throwing things to the wind, right? So the majority of people that are stuck are living in this noisy pool, this loud, obnoxious pool of constant blind applications, and submitting those applications with absolutely no context, no relationship, and not providing signal to those companies or those hiring teams. And at that exact same time, most job seekers will tell you that they know networking is the most important thing they can do, right? They know data means that. They understand that. But the crazier part of this that I think is extremely important is that more than half of them either don't know where to start or know where to start, but are afraid to start. So here's what really happens to the majority, right? They default back to what feels productive, applying more, scrolling more, refreshing more, and ultimately what that leads to is waiting more. And this is where most people start to lose. Not because they're not capable, but because they shift their behavior long enough they do not shift their behavior long enough for it to actually start to work. And here's the neuroscience, right? Because this is important to understand. We got data, now let's know why do our brains work this way, right? Your brain is wired for efficiency and safety. We've talked about this in previous episodes of Mindset Monday. When you apply for jobs, you get a dopamine hit. You feel productive. And you get this feeling, this euphoria of progress. But when you reach out to someone, then you have to follow up. When you put yourself in a position to be seen, there's uncertainty. It doesn't immediately feel productive. And that's the mindset shift. We want to get into that discomfort, uncomfortable area, right? Because we want to live in a space of understanding what we view and interpret as risk. So our brain pushes back on us towards that easier process of feeling productive, of just applying. And over time, you'll create this habit. You'll convince yourself that if you stay busy, that's truly effectiveness. That if you stay active, that you are actually being visible when we know you're not. That we'll just stay hopeful because of all the work we're doing, but it's actually not true progress. And that's not a motivational issue. You're working harder than you could ever imagine. But if we shift to focus on what truly does it mean to be effective, what does it really mean to be visible, and how we can actually truly define and reflect and discover and then execute on proper progress. Then we shift from just thinking what motivation is, and we shift that motivation into a system. This is how, you've heard of it before, we eliminate the roller coaster ride that is job seeking. So let's really think about how we reframe this. If you're redefining your strategy and leaning into a new space, then you're not behind. That's the common feeling. We all feel like we're behind, right? We all go onto LinkedIn because it's the necessary evil. We see a bunch of people landing jobs, and you're thinking, why am I not finding a job? Did they work harder than me? What did they do? How did they do this? And what that does is cause misaligned direction. A lot of people will think then, well, wait a minute, maybe I'm underqualified. Maybe I'm not able to apply to the same roles because I'm not having success. Maybe you start to think about the fact that you're not representing yourself well, and you're underrepresenting yourself in the rooms, and you're making those mistakes. And you start to wonder that how are these other people finding jobs when they're not necessarily better candidates, right? And here's the truth. You're not losing to these other people for any of the things we just listed. You very well could be losing them because of the consistency wasn't in the right places for you, not them. You're not in a race against anyone else. The key is to focus in on, are you the one who's following up properly? Are you the one who's focusing on asking deeper, richer, powerful questions? Are you learning how to engage and have a strategy, how to stay in conversations longer, not just in the interview room, but before the interview room and after the interview room? Are you understanding that the real competition is not anyone else inside of that room that you're debating and fighting and talking to and trying to prove your self-worth to? No, you're only competing against yourself. So here's really what I want us all to take a step back and review this week. And I really want to leave it in this. Stop trying to beat the market. It doesn't make sense. Focus in and control your controllables. Start beating your pattern. Lean into your habits. And pick one lane of growth this week. For those who have been a part of Foundations Plus, you know that this is compounding interest when you do this. You might be focusing on your resume this week. Great. Make your resume and your marketing materials this week's plan. And then the next week, you move and shift in how that flows into your networking. How does that support your networking? How does it elevate your networking? How does that make you better at explaining who you are, and what you can do for others? That focus will lead you into then the following week, focused on your interview skills. And you'll be able to evaluate previous interviews, not only the ones that went poorly, but those, and most importantly, that went well. What were the blueprint of your successes based on the resume, storytelling, networking to then interview? What was the pattern? What was the habit creation? And instead of just focusing on all of this at once, break it down into bite-sized, focused habit creation points. Want to have the foundation built, then we go all in. Then we ratchet up the focus and the effort level, and we build from a strong, firm foundation of belief and confidence that allows you to win. We stay focused on this with simple next steps so that you can build towards the big focus, which really heavily in the month of May is that this is a good solid 4 weeks in front of you where most jobs and job hiring committees are wrapping things up the best they can for lingering jobs to lean in June and obviously July. So let's go heavy for 4 more weeks in building the firm foundation appropriately so that we can maximize in the next several weeks, no matter where in your journey you are, that you are going to show up absolutely the best for yourself. And if we do that, you're no longer competing against anyone else in that room. You're only focused on yourself and you're competing against yourself. And when you do that, I promise you, you will start to see not only growth in your job search, but growth personally. So as I wrap this up, one, I can't thank everybody enough for the incredible hard work that they put in that are part of our community, as well as the Foundations program last week. I never have favorites of groups that I've worked with, but that's not fair. But I can tell you right now, if I'm leveling the scale of effort of the individuals that I'm blessed to work with right now in Foundations, Foundation Plus, I think we got 10s across the board. We have just hyper talented individuals who are constantly pushing themselves forward, and I'm excited to see what they do. The key here is if you don't know that feeling and you're not finding those wins, then I need you to come join us. It's as simple as that. Come be a part of this space with us. Come figure out what's working for them, right? See why we see folks in their first week or even in their 7th week are still going, whoa, I can't believe what I learned. Doesn't matter where you are in the journey. The key is that you recognize that you're taking steps forward and you're building that firm foundation based on habits and the right outlook. Everybody have a great week. I'm excited for the opportunity to talk to you guys more. Let's lean in, and until the next Mindset Monday, let's stay in the work and stay focused on what we can control and what we can do by evaluating our next steps. Take care.